So being 7 o'clock, do I have a motion to open tonight's meeting?
Don't move.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, our meeting is open. Good evening, everybody. Today is Wednesday, January 27, 2021. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. Tonight's meeting is a live video and audio of the meeting, which will be aired on the Comcast local channel 18 for all the residents out there. A recording of the meeting will also be posted on the Town of Acushnet YouTube channel for anybody that's interested in catching the meeting. Okay, first thing on the agenda tonight is going to be some reserve fund transfers that we're going to take care of. And the first one that I have, I'm looking at, is with regards to Lake Street improvement. Does everybody have that one? Okay, so
Yes.
the amount requested is $2,000. And the amount requested is being used, I guess there's a need for a recording administrative assistant to help out, I guess, with the project.
Yeah,
I
if you
guess-
want, I can just speak quickly. So the Lake
Sure.
Street Improvement Committee, it's been kind of quiet, I think, in the last few years. And I know when Dave Wonar came in as selectman, he kind of wanted to pick it up and start, meeting again and work on making some improvements in the area. So that committee had no budget at all. And what they've been finding is, they've had a bunch of meetings. They're working on a lot of projects, but they really just need help. As Kathy does for you guys, getting agendas together, doing minutes, and working with vendors, things like that. Just working on the agenda for the group. So we plugged in 2,000. That's definitely going to be more than they'll need, but just to give it a placeholder. And I think we might have a budget for them for next year too. I think we'll just be putting it into the miscellaneous department that we have, and there's a bunch of committees listed in there. And so they would just be using this money for hiring a secretary to help them with their meetings and agendas.
Okay, sounds good. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Was there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nobody's opposed. Okay, motion passes. Okay, the next one on the agenda is for a street grant in the amount of $10,000. I guess there is a need for plans to be completed to apply for street grant funding.
Yeah, so we're actually going to put this into the DPW engineering fees line. It's the 0104422-530400. So what we're looking at is, obviously we all know we made a lot of cuts to get to FY21, and DPW cut all of their engineering fees. And right now the selectmen are working on applying for the shared street grant again, and hoping to get that application to cover the sidewalks on Slocum Street. It's a project they've talked about for a long time and they've worked really hard to get. And we think we could get it with the current shared streets grant. But in order to get that project underway, we would need engineering plans. And it takes a while for them. I mean, this is all beyond me. It takes apparently, 5 to 8 weeks for an engineer to get the plans all drawn up for you. And that's needed before the project can be started. So in anticipation that we'll hopefully get the grant, and even if we don't get the grant, the design plans will be needed because the work will be done at some point. We were looking at $10,000 for that project for the engineering fees.
Julie, where is that project located?
So this is the Slocum Street sidewalks. So we're looking at the whole street as it connects to River Road, trying to expand on the work that we did with the shared streets grant along River that we connected to the Acushnet Riverview Park. And you know, the grant has specifications, so you can't just replace sidewalks. You know, it needs to connect to a bigger project, to connect businesses to your parks, also to connect to senior, you know, senior centers. So we do have some, that we had to connect it to the purpose of the grant, which is, you know, to have more walking and bike paths, and connecting those different kinds of places. So we're looking at, I mean, the plans are kind of evolving, but what we're hoping to get, our ideal plan would involve, you know, putting up trees and lighting along the sidewalks as well, and along the river, so that it can all kind of connect and be useful, even, you know, in the winter when it gets dark early.
Julie, do we have an,
Okay.
I mean, engineering fees, do we have, what kind of feeling do we have? Is $10,000 enough? Is it more than enough? Any idea really where that is?
Yeah, so DPW gave us some feedback, and they feel that 10,000 would be enough. If for some reason it's not, they'll come back and let us know, but they felt good with 10,000. Typically, for projects, it can be between 5 and 15 or 20,000 if it's like a really big project. So where this is, you know, one street, sidewalks, some lighting, they felt that 10,000 was a good number.
Any other questions from anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer.
Okay, we have a second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nobody's opposed. Motion passes without opposition. Okay, I think this is, the next one I think is the last reserve fund transfer, correct, Julie?
Yeah, that
It's,
one.
it's from the Historical Commission, and it's for the amount of $4,490. I guess the oil tanks are rotted, and they need to be replaced. So this is the reason for the request. I guess there were 3 quotes, and we've gone with the lowest bidder.
That's right.
I talked with,
Go ahead, Bob.
Bob St. Jean. I've talked with the Historical Commission chairperson, and she's gone at great length to get the bids and make the determination, or had the determination made that those tanks were ready to cause some real serious problems there. So I would encourage the board to approve this transfer.
It's a lot cheaper to replace them tanks than to pay for the spill after if we don't.
No doubt about it, and they're pretty well deteriorated.
Yeah, that's a big problem if they do let go.
Yep.
So these are going into the Long Plain Museum, it looks like, is that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
I'll make a motion on that one.
And do I have
I'll
a second?
second.
Okay, all in
I'll
favor?
second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and no opposition? Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, so next on the agenda, I guess we're going to discuss the FY 2022 budget procedures and hearings. So Julie, you want to shed some light on that?
Sure. So we're back at it with FY22 now. Feels like we just finished everything else. Melissa and I have been working to get budgets from everyone. We're still fine tuning a few departments. So we should have a full draft to you, I'd say, by next week. And I mean, what we asked departments to give to us was basically level funded again. I know there are some departments that have requests for slight increases for certain reasons. DPW is one I'll mention. Obviously, we know they got a lot cut last year. and they almost cut themselves off too much. The selectmen have addressed it a few times, and we're really grateful that we've had a lot of these grants. It's given a lot of work for them to do in the meantime, but there's definitely a lot of work to do, and I know that they're looking to put an increase back so that they'll be able to get a lot of projects done next year. So there are a few like that that have a few increases listed, but overall we've asked for a level fund. We have 3 union contracts that are up this year that we're negotiating. So that's kind of up in the air. And the selectmen have not decided yet what a COLA will be for non-union, non-contractual employees. So we're still kind of figuring a little bit out. But overall, I mean, we're keeping it as level funded as possible. I'll mention a couple others that I know have increases that are fixed costs. And that's going to make the budget a little challenging this year. The first one, I'm sure many of you are aware of this from discussions last year, but Old Colony has right now a proposed $325,000 increase. And that is due to 2 things. One is more students. I think there are 15 more students that are in the Old Colony School this year. And the second is we talked about last year, Freetown was trying to become a member town, and they have recently chosen a different school. So losing Freetown students and revenue means that the other member towns have to absorb some of the costs that Freetown was covering. So they're right now proposing the $325,000 increase. So Acushnet has the highest increase of all the other towns. I did have a preliminary talk with Mr. Plansky and with Sarah Griffith, who's the business manager. I think it'll be really important and helpful for the finance committee this year to have them come before you. I know we do it every year, but I would think having them come in earlier would be helpful. I know they're still early in their budget process, and if there's any sway that we can give maneuvering on the cost for the town this year, I think it would be helpful to do that earlier than later.
I'm sorry, Julie, do we have a sense on what the other towns are thinking? Because, right, you need 3 out of the 5 towns. So.
Yeah, I don't have a sense, but all of the towns had increases. I'm gonna forget, there was another town that had a really steep increase like we did. And then, a handful had good increases, and there was maybe one that was kind of, minuscule. So overall, yeah, most of the communities saw increases, but there was only one other that was very steep like we had. And I can get you that info.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I can pull up some of the stuff from, I remember back in the day when I used to attend those meetings, we were always fortunate. Acushnet never got, we may have had an increase, but never steep. It was always some of the other towns. But, the other towns also pushed back whenever they had, the increases, because they too struggled to make ends meet. So,
Yep.
As I remember, we had the largest increase in students, though, of all the towns as well.
We did.
Look, so it doesn't surprise me we have the highest increase, but obviously we need to look at it. More of our students are choosing to go there compared to the other towns as well.
It sounds like it's more of an issue that Freetown isn't sending their kids anymore.
Well, the number that Julie just threw out goes out to about $20,000 per student, if I heard her right. So I think it's probably close to 15, or I don't know what the number is, but somewhere around that we're sending, that we are using. So it feels like about 15 before our kids, and maybe 5 or 6 or more for the loss of Freetown. But Julie, maybe you have more insight.
Yeah, I actually just pulled it up on my computer, and I'll forward this to you. So Acushnet had 15 additional students, and we had 300. Our increase right now proposed is 325,400. The next highest is Lakeville. They have 8 new students. Their increase is 232,602. The next highest is Mattapoisett. They have 6 new students, and their increase is 144,613. Carver has 2 new students, and their total is 102,892. And then Rochester had -4 students, and their increase is $1,300. So,
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Would we be sending less students to either Fairhaven or New Bedford, and therefore we would have less costs there, and so be offset? So that's really the figure of over a $300,000 increase actually is offset in another budget. And so therefore it may be far less as far as the cost to the to the community.
So, so there should be some savings in terms of those students are going to Old Colony instead of one of our schools. But I will say, if I look at this proposal, the per pupil for Acushnet in Old Colony is about, it's almost $22,000. And, in general, the other schools the other high schools we send the students to, they're generally around 10 or 11,000. So
Right.
yeah, we'll see some savings, but it's not an even match.
So does this mean that there's no longer a wait list for Old Colony?
I
Because
don't know.
the numbers you rattled off, Julia, like increase of 15, increase of 8, increase of 5, isn't a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. There has to be more Freetown kids going than, 35, 40.
Yeah.
So, and I know part of, there always was a wait list.
Yeah. I'm sure there's still will, and this is why it'll be good to have them come. I'm sure there'll still be a wait list, but my understanding is the Freetown students are not going to fill spots that Acushnet students could fill. So we're going to get first dibs over any of those students, even more so.
Julie, are all the Freetown students out there now, or is this going to happen every year now? As it's maybe only freshmen to juniors are there, or so let's just say it's only upperclassmen, and it's going to continue every year that we're going to lose. That's going to go. Or are they all out going somewhere else, or are they still some in there, in other classes?
I'm not positive, but my understanding is I think that the students who are there are still there. So they're going to be slowly fading out.
So this is going to happen for,
Yeah.
for more than this year.
Yes.
So Julie, so where, if there are kids that live in Freetown that want to go to a vocational school now, what are their options?
They're going to
They,
I
yeah,
actually
I'm not,
that wanted in. I know someone that wanted in and they were in Freetown, were told they couldn't go to Old Colony. So they apparently Freetown is going to the one at the end of 140. Is it Plymouth something or other?
Bristol Plymouth.
Bristol
Yeah.
Plymouth.
Yep.
So how about the town of Marion? Where,
With Wareham, I believe. I don't think that's
So-
part of.
so does the town of Wareham have a vocational school? I'm not aware
There's
if they do or not.
whatever the name is, but the Marion goes with where the Wareham children go.
So Wareham has a vocational school.
Oh, yes.
They do. Okay, I wasn't sure.
so yeah, I think that's one that obviously has a huge increase. I think it's important to get them in early. So if we can sway any of the decision on the final budget, I think that'll be important. And a few others that I'll just mention, again, kind of fixed costs that are increasing. Our pension is up about 120,000 from last year. That one's always, it's always up, but it's, staying the course this year, so we get no break. And then health insurance, we should get numbers at the end of February. But as it stands now, our insurance provider has said that we should expect between 5 and 7% increase. That's what across the board, the average is 5 to 7% right now. A lot of the health insurance companies have absorbed costs from COVID, so they've been free for people who have the health insurance, but obviously the insurance companies are absorbing those costs and it gets put on you eventually. So I'm not sure how the town will fare in the increase. We had a 0% last year and we've had really good numbers. So I'm hoping we're going to be closer to the 5% or hopefully under that. But just to keep you updated, obviously a $1.5 million line item like that, getting any kind of increase, 5% is going to be a hit too. So
Do you have any sense on what our stats are with regards to the health insurance? Like, do we have any, significant illnesses? Because that's all going to factor into, I mean, Mike, you know more about this than I do, but I mean, I would think significant illnesses are going to factor into our premiums increases.
Yeah, they definitely do. So the last meeting we had, I think there was only one claim, one claimant or claim that we had that was significant. But all of our other numbers are really low. I'm going to blank on what they call it, the percentage. But our percentages have been really, really low. So we've gotten really good numbers and good premium increases or decreases in the past because of that. So right now we're looking pretty good. I think November and December had, I'm going to forget what it's called, whatever the percentage is, you want to have a low percentage. And we've always been like 70%. But this last November and December, they were really high. They were actually slightly over 100%. So, we're going to watch how that plays out. I'm sure it's COVID, pandemic, who knows, related, but hopefully that's not factored in too high when we are looking at the premiums.
Bob, you got a question?
No.
Bob St. Jean?
No, I'm good.
No? Okay.
So those are the kind of highlights for FY22. In terms of the state and our revenues, what we're plugging in right now is level funding from last year, from FY21. And so obviously you guys probably all remembered that FY21, we cut our revenues by 5%. The state ended up level funding for FY21. So we should see, $400,000 excess in revenues this year, which, my plan, and, we can all talk about this, but I think the smartest thing for us to do is to let that carry into next year. The state's kind of pushing to try to level fund again for next year, but we still don't have anything solid. So what I'm looking at right now is let's just level fund what we did last year, which is the 5% decrease. We'll keep that same number. And that way, if we, have a fall in revenues, we have this year's surplus and, hopefully whatever we have from next year to help carry us through. But that's still evolving. No one really has any solid answer yet for what FY22 will bring. But we do have options, and I think we've put ourselves in a good spot by making the cuts for FY21 and kind of pushing through.
We'll see.
So I know for we have on the agenda to plan out the hearings. The selectmen talked last night. They obviously, they'll be meeting with departments too. They asked if the finance committee can do the police, fire, DPW last, so that they'll have time to kind of go through those bigger budgets with them. And we're not being duplicative where, if you meet with the police now and then the selectmen meet with them and they make changes, then you have to meet with them again with the changes. So I think if we're looking at schedules, some of the smaller budgets, the ones that tend to stay the same every year, would be better to have first. And then we can work on some of the more complicated ones at the end of the schedule, if that's okay with everyone.
Makes sense.
I ordered pots.
What?
I ordered pots for vacuum.
So Julie, when is it going to be ready for us to start the meetings then?
When is what ready?
When will we be ready to start having the meetings then? Like the 7th?
We should have budgets to you for next week. So
Okay, so should we start the 3rd?
what was that?
Are we looking to start meetings on the 3rd?
Whatever you guys prefer.
Let's see.
The week of the 15th is school vacation week, so.
All right, so if we start next week, that's our first meeting, and then we'd have another one on the 10th. So the 3rd, the 10th, skip the 17th, we'd have the 24th. The March 3rd, then March 10th. Julie, when's the deadline for this to have to go out to print?
It's going to be, I think, April 5th.
April 5th?
And that's giving a lot of leeway. So, I mean, that's like a, goal, but we have leeway if we need to push it back beyond that.
Okay.
So, I mean, you have all of February and all of March. I don't know, Kathy, do you have like the list of departments that we typically do together?
I don't have it handy. I didn't think to print that up. I mean, I do have it.
Can I write on it?
And we have Board of Health, Park Department, Library. I think those are easier ones.
Yep.
Just off the top of my head.
Let's see here. All right, we got town clerk. I'm just looking at my actual budget sheet. You got the selectmen's, which we'll do at the end. Assessor.
I'm assuming the school will be at the end as well, I would imagine.
Yep.
Normally Kathy reaches out to these different departments to make sure that the dates are, that we have available are convenient for them as well. So perhaps if she could continue doing that, reaching out to the different departments and coming up with some sort of a schedule, which would probably be helpful.
That would be good.
Well, maybe this coming week we should reach out to everybody, see what their availability is, and then maybe start on the 10th instead of starting next week. Does that make sense?
I think that would be better.
All right, yeah, because I think we'll need another week to organize all the departments coming in. So I think maybe our initial target date for the first meeting should be the 10th.
And I can work with Kathy to kind of prioritize the departments too.
Yeah, I know, like in the past, typically if there was, relatively easy ones, we'd do like 3 in one night.
Right.
We do multiple departments in one night and just, get them done. And then, save the most difficult ones for the end. And in case we have questions, we could always call them back in for an extra meeting at the end as well.
That's right.
But is Old Colony ready? Could they come in next week? Since
I can find out.
Does it make sense to get them done?
I think that would be great. I can reach out to them and see if they're available. And if they are, I think that's a great idea to do next week. And then we can work on the other departments as opposed to the week after.
Yeah, because I think it sounds like Old Colonies, might not take as long as the school department meeting normally, but this is going to be longer than normal.
But I don't think they have had a budget committee meeting yet.
Old Colony?
Old Colony, we have a representative on that budget committee, and so we haven't had a meeting yet to look at that budget.
So when I talked to them, they said, in a case like this where they know a certain town is having a very large increase, they try to reach out and work with them beforehand. So yeah, I mean, the budget committees still have to vet through all of this. And that's why I think they wanted to get a sense from us of what we could afford before everything gets finalized. And they've said they're more than happy to come on and talk through, even though things aren't finalized yet. I think it's more important to meet with them sooner than later. And they said that they're very willing to. They can explain a lot of what's happening and what's in the budget, and what stuff we could work with if we need to. I think we need to cut that down as much as possible. But what does that mean for them? So I can definitely reach out and see if they can do that next week. I think that's a great idea.
Really,
Yeah, I agree. I know, I forget the fellow's name now, who's the superintendent, but
Aaron Polanski.
yeah, he had talked to me, I don't know where it was. I talked to him about a month or so ago, and he had said just the same thing Julie was saying, that it was a big increase. He would be really happy to come before the town and kind of talk about that anytime, even if budgets weren't completely prepared, as I'm sure they're not at this point. So I'm sure he'd be happy to come up.
But if my memory serves me, we can't unilaterally cut the budget or cut our appropriation. I think it takes 3 out of 5 towns in order to do it.
but I mean, they're always, back in the day when I used to sit in on those meetings, I think they were always really receptive to, comments and feedback. But I think, John, from what I remember too, if we have heartburn, a lot of those other towns are going to have heartburn, because there were plenty of years where we had a minor increase. So maybe, I wasn't as aggressive as I would have been if we were the ones with the big increases, and they were having heartburn with like $40,000-$50,000 increases. So we're not going to be alone. I'm pretty certain those other towns are going to be equally struggling to figure out how to balance this. So, but the other thing that I think would be helpful, Julie, back in the day, we used to get these capital improvement like timelines. If they have something like that, that would be helpful as well. At least it would give us a sense on what some of the big ticket items are, and the parking lot paving was always one of them. Well, I know that got done towards the end of my days there. So, stuff like that would be helpful to know.
Definitely.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll, do we want to set some dates? I mean, February 3rd, hopefully we'll get Old Colony. And then the 10th, are we skipping the 17th?
Yes.
Okay, so the 10th and the 24th. And then March, we have the 3rd, the 10th, 17th. This happened to us last year, didn't it? 24th, 31st if we need it. I swear I thought St. Patrick's Day was on one of our meetings too. Maybe that was the selectmen. So we can use all those dates, and I'll work with Kathy and see what we can plug in. I'll try to save that 31st for like final discussions or votes or anything like that. So I think we'll have plenty of, between that we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. We should be able to cover
then we
everything.
will typically save a meeting or two for deliberations.
Right.
So is those dates factored into that, or is that a date beyond March 24th?
You would still have, I said April 5th. You could have a meeting on the 7th too if you needed an extra date. That should be no problem. I'll write that down here too.
The 2nd, April 2nd, just in case.
April 7th, yep.
Oh, the 7th. Okay.
They'll be here before you know it.
All right, so Kathy, you'll send out an email to everybody next week to confirm if we're going to actually meet with O'Colony.
I'll wait to hear from Julie and take it from there.
Okay. All right, Julie, anything else with regards to upcoming year?
That's all I have right now.
Okay.
This has been crazy, so.
All right, so the next thing on the agenda for tonight is we have one set of minutes to approve from October 28th, 2020. In attendance at the meeting was Mr. St. Jean, myself, Sue Delgado, Bob Ferrera, John Howcroft, Ron Melbourne, and Gail Rodericks. Absent from that meeting was Jackie Stanley. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
Have any questions? If there's no questions, do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
okay, meeting minutes are approved from October 28th. Next item, old business. Does anyone have any old business to discuss? No old business. Anybody have new business?
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know that necessarily goes on the new business. Julie, question for you. Did the town get CARES money from the government, and how is it spent, and how much money do we still have some money saved that?
So I'll let Melissa take over for some of the info on the balances, but in general, yes, we received, I think it was about 932,000 as a pre-authorization for CARES. We were entitled to up to that 932,000. And the finance department has been working diligently to fill out, it's like a pre-application for your estimated costs. They're fronting the money to the towns and then having a period right after of auditing. And, so if you, for instance, like our first round, we plugged in that we had about $180,000 of costs. They immediately gave us the money. And then a month later, the finance department had to give them all the backup of all the receipts and invoices and everything. And they kind of balanced that out. And, whether you owed money or they owed you money, they'd reconcile it and then you move on again. And they do that. And it's been a lot for, I know the finance department is hating the process because it's a lot of work, but I know that the purpose behind it was to get the money to the cash flow to the towns as early as possible. The other tricky thing, this has been a real whirlwind, and I feel for the finance department. I'm actually glad that I got to walk away from that because it's been so much. But the CARES came out, which is fantastic, but we also have FEMA, and FEMA was also covering stuff. And FEMA, what they cover is they cover 75%. And CARES said, well, we'll cover the 25% that FEMA doesn't cover on those items. And FEMA was very vague on what they would cover. And they got very strict as time went on. I still don't think, even though we filed our application and all the detail with FEMA, I still don't think we've received money from FEMA. But now with President Biden making changes, we're getting notices that FEMA may go back and re-allow things that they denied previously. For instance, I know FEMA, they've said we'll cover PPE. They're covering the testing for the town, all the testing that we're doing. They're covering, and they cover it at 75%. But PPE for the schools and anything for the schools, for some reason, they've said we're not covering any of it. So FEMA has left out the schools. And now with some of the changes with Biden, we may be able to cover schools. Where, they've sent out memos saying there are going to be changes coming, but we don't know what they are yet. But I have to anticipate. I know there's been discussion that they need to help schools. So that's something I'm guessing maybe it'll come up. And the hard thing for finance is this is always changing and there's a lot to track and you can't double dip. So they've been working really hard to keep everything separate. There are some things like the testing is covered by FEMA. They said they would cover it. So if we have a $100,000 invoice, 75,000 gets charged to our FEMA grant, 25,000 gets charged to the CARES grant. And then we just wait to get it all reconciled with those, between the federal government and the state government. So it's been a lot to track. Mel, I think you said the last update you had, we still have about 200,000 of CARES left.
Correct.
So
just over 200, and that's with some anticipated costs that we're expecting that we haven't gotten invoices yet for. So we still have some room to play with. But of course, like Julie mentioned, that I did reach out to our FEMA rep last week, and they just have no time frame at all. They can't give me even anything. As we know, FEMA sometimes can take several years to come through, but we're hoping this one doesn't. But now there's more changes, as we just got notified this week. So that's going to, obviously they notified us, it's pushing it back even more. They've already sent some back because now we know school cannot get that. So they're at least looking at it and questioning it. So they're in the process. Now it's kind of at a standstill till we know what the new changes are. So that would help us if they start covering the schools.
And what's the timeline for using the remaining 200,000?
The end of this school year, the end of this calendar year.
The end of 2021.
Mhm.
Yes, because it was originally till the end of December of last year, but they extended it. So we're really grateful for that. I think as a town, the Board of Selectmen has decided to save majority of that for testing because they feel that is a big priority to keep the town safe.
Okay. But, if Biden passes another, CARES 2.0, then there could be differences again, right? Because
yeah,
talking about that.
Yes.
Okay. So as far
honestly, there's 350,000 that we saved aside for the school. So if they come out and they say that FEMA will cover us some for the school, that will be a major help for us alone.
So accounting wise, for all you non-accountants, they've plugged in all that school, say the 350,000, they've plugged it in as CARES. But now if FEMA goes back and says, oh, we'll cover 75%, they have to go take all of those invoices, filter through which ones would be covered by FEMA, and then journal entry them over to that grant. And again, FEMA, like Mel said, it can take years. Sometimes I'm hoping it doesn't take years for the money to come back from this one, but reconciling when it's something this amount of money and this detailed, it's a lot of work. So they've been doing a great job managing it all right now. I'm really glad to not be in that department, but I mean, and it's a wonderful thing to get all that money. The CARES money has, I think the majority of it has been spent on the clinics, the testing clinics. And I'm sure, the vaccinations are on the table. We're still waiting for guidance on that, but I think it's pretty foreseeable that the town could be involved in, community vaccinations in the future too. So, yeah, there's definitely a need for the money. We're using it wisely. The selectmen have monitored all of the expenses that have gone through, but it's definitely continuing. And like you said, if a new stimulus comes through, then it's a whole other round for us to track.
Thanks, Julie. I want to just give a shout out to our fire chief and EMS director, Mr. Kevin Gallagher, and his staff. They've provided a tremendous service for our town and our residents during this COVID crisis. The way they organize the testing before and after holidays, and I believe there's another testing scheduled for this Friday as well. So it's just, they've done an outstanding job. I mean, we are really fortunate to have that kind of organization in place in our town, because other towns don't have that. So we're very lucky from that perspective.
Agreed. And I'm looking to see if I can find it, but they're doing some me see, the chief had posted that they're gonna have set times.
Yeah, Friday and Saturday. Yeah, the chief posted, I think it was Friday at the Council on Aging.
10 to 12, 10 to 2, or maybe 10 to 12, it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, I did see that too. So, and then Saturday back at the school.
Yes.
So,
I wanted to find the exact days and times, but yeah, it is Friday and Saturday. I wish I had it. Sorry, guys. I didn't know you were going to talk about it.
I'll get it, Julie. My husband knows exactly what it is. I'll get him to tell me.
And I completely agree with you. We're really grateful. The chief sent out an email earlier, and I believe.
You want me to tell you the times, Jules?
Yeah, do you have it?
Yeah, just because I creep them on Facebook. So it's Fridays beginning this Friday, 10 to noon in the parking lot behind the COA. Saturdays from 9 to noon at the elementary school gym. And then they said it takes between 24 to 36 hours to get. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
And then I think he gave us an update today on how many tests they've done, and it was just shy of 6,000, just
Yeah.
the PCR tests. He had sent out an email to all of his staff, thanking them for the amazing job they've done. And, you know, putting it in perspective of the town as a whole, that's half of the town, if it was, you know, everybody once. But it's an amazing feat to think that we just started this in October and they've already, you know, had 6,000 tests that they've performed, just the PCR, not counting any rapid or the antibody tests that they do for the town employees as well. It's incredible. And I think it's been a really important factor for our community in keeping this contained. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I think it's very helpful. And I would imagine he's probably going to do the same thing before the Super Bowl, I would imagine. Probably before and after, because you know people will be getting together for the Super Bowl, and you know you gotta be careful. So I'm sure he's already all over that already.
He loves this.
Yeah, he's good at it.
He can't wait for vaccine clinics to open up. I can just tell.
I'm sure. All right. So if there's no other new business, so I guess we're going to tentatively schedule for next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, unless we hear otherwise. We'll plan on meeting with Oak Colony, and I think that's it for tonight. So if there's no other discussion on anything, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second, all in
Second.
favor? Aye.
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 All right, good seeing everybody.
Aye.
I
Have a nice weekend, and we'll see everybody next week.
All
Stay
right,
safe.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Good evening, everybody. This is Finance Committee meeting through Zoom once again, since we cannot meet in public yet. This meeting is, there'll be a live video and audio of the meeting, which will be aired on Comcast Local Channel 18. A recording of the meeting will also be posted on the Town of Acushnet YouTube channel.
Where do you put it? It'd be down here.
Do I have a motion to open?
Motion to open.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, meeting is open. All right, on tonight's agenda, the first thing we'll cover is the reserve fund transfer from the building department. There is a request from the building department for the amount of $5,000. And this is requested for to replace a lawnmower that is used to take care of most of the town properties.
I take it the old one is terrible.
That's all I have for details on the transfer.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. This is the lawnmower Jim manages, the young boys who run our custodial facilities. They end up mowing the majority of the town property. I know Parks just recently got a new mower as well. They do a lot of work at the fields, but basically all the other town-owned property is mowed with this lawn mower. One of the students that Jim has on staff, he's in the VOC program. He's really good at figuring out problems with the lawnmowers, and he worked all around it and just could not find a way to fix it to salvage this mower. So they did have to go out to get a new mower, and this was the cheapest price they could get for a mower that could manage all the lawn that they're mowing. So
How old was the old one?
it was, I'm not sure the date, it was really old. It had been passed through Parks already, and handed down from Parks to Jim and his kids. So it was very old.
Okay. I'll make a motion if we don't have one. I don't remember.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes without opposition. Okay, next on the agenda tonight is discussion of the articles. So I guess we'll go through these, starting with the first one, Julie.
And the only one, this is kind of rushed in a sense, having the town meeting almost 2 weeks from now. So the Board of Selectmen actually met this morning to vote on the warrant. And now you guys are voting and we're gonna have it published by Friday. So when the Selectmen went through the articles this morning, there is one that they pulled, which is number 4 on your list, which was the bylaw amendment. And they just, they had some discussion about it and they felt that a bylaw change without enough time to really vet through everything wasn't appropriate. So they pulled that one. All of the other ones are on there. There are 2 that the amounts were adjusted, but I'll let you know when we get to them. But yeah, I think otherwise let's just go through them one by one. And if there are questions, we can talk about them.
Yeah, that
Okay.
proposed bylaw, excuse Mr. Chair, for a minute, that proposed bylaw, wouldn't it have had gone to the bylaw review committee first before it went to the selectmen?
Yeah, that's what it really should go through that process. The selectmen originally put it on the draft list because from our understanding, it's clarifying a bylaw where there's some contradiction. But yeah, after discussing it today and not having the bylaw review committee had a chance to review it, they felt that it just wasn't appropriate to keep on with this short amount of time. So I'm told.
You all set with that, John?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Julie, I'm gonna read the articles as they're written. So for anybody out there who's listening, they can hear what the article is about, and then we can discuss it right after. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So Article number 1, to see if the town will vote to appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the school committee for the accelerated repair project at the Acushnet Elementary School for partial replacement of the existing roof, which the proposed repair project would materially extend the useful life of the school and preserve an asset that is otherwise is capable of supporting the required educational program, and for which the town may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need, as determined by the MSBA, and any project costs the town incurs in excess of any grant that may be approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town. Any grant that the town may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser of 57 and 74/100% of eligible approved cost as determined by the MSBA, or the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA. So Julie, we know this is obviously for the roof repair. Do we have any idea on what the cost is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the total cost, and it's going to be in the motion for this article, is about 2.5 million. We have to borrow, or we have to authorize borrowing for the full amount, because MSBA is a reimbursable grant. So the plan would be, we would do a ban, which is a temporary borrowing, for the full amount, the 2.5 million. As we pay for costs, MSBA will reimburse us, and the 57.74%, they'll reimburse us that percentage of eligible costs. And when the project is complete, whatever amount is left, which will be a little bit, it'll be close to 1.2 million, we'll be able to turn around and bond for that full amount. But in the motion, we will have to authorize borrowing for the full amount initially, so that we can take out a ban for that.
How long will the bond be?
Our plan is to do a 15-year bond. And when we did the numbers preliminarily a few months ago, it should come out to about $85,000 a year to pay for the bond over 15 years. The anticipation is to use the solar capital expense fund, because right now the amount that we have of current solar properties will cover the 85,000. And we know that there are a lot of other solar projects that are planned to come on board. So the funding in that account should be more than enough to cover the amount of the bond over the 15 years. And it won't be on the tax levy. So that was a big thing for the selectmen, to try to keep it off the tax levy.
Do we know if the roof at the elementary school, as the situation been getting worse with like leaking and such?
The school, when they were on with the Board of Selectmen earlier today, and they do apologize for not being able to make it. They had some prior commitments tonight, but they were kind of laughing, like, we'll have to see what the roof looks like when we go back, because the rain had just started. So I mean, they're managing it constantly. They have money in an article right now to maintain, and this project, if it's approved, it wouldn't be started until the summer. So they're managing it right now, but it's definitely in need of a full repair. It's very old. I think it's 50 years old.
Julie, this is only a partial repair, not the full roof.
That's right. Yep. So there was a part of the roof that I think had been repaired more recently.
That's what I thought. A few years back, we repaired part of the roof.
Yeah. So in order to qualify for MSBA funding, it has to be over a certain age. And so the part that we're replacing was over 50 years, but the rest of the roof, I think, is like 3 years out for meeting the threshold. And we've done smaller repairs, but this would be a full repair of the roof, a full replacement of the roof, but just a section of the total roof at the elementary school. So yeah.
So in about three more years, we'll have to repair most likely the other half.
Yeah.
Portion.
Yeah.
How much of the roof is covered, Julie? Do you know?
I think it's like 60%.
Okay.
Is there any question or about the MSBA in terms of it's a discretionary program? I mean, is this something that, how well do we know if they're going to reimburse it, and if they do, what the timing of that? When would that be? How long does this officially wait?
So MSBA, we've already been through the whole ringer with MSBA. They have a year-long process, And this is the language that they make us use for the article. And our attorneys also approved it, but basically it's kind of covering themselves, but they've already approved us. We've gone through the process. We've had a designer. All of the design work has been approved by MSBA. They've looked at all the costs, and in August, I think it was August 26th, they had a final vote, and Acushnet was approved to get the reimbursement. So there should be no retraction. I don't think I've ever heard of MSBA retracting after they've approved a project.
All right, thank you.
So, but in terms of getting the money like that, once the project starts in the summer and next summer, hopefully, as we incur costs, we'll have to pay for them using the band money that we got. And we'll then turn around to MSBA and show them, you know, these are the invoices that we've paid, proof of payment, and then they'll reimburse us. So it'll be kind of a fun accounting process of making payments and reimbursing ourselves, and then at the end, when we have a final total, we'll get to go out to bond. So
Okay, thanks, Julie.
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or just further discussion? Actually, I noticed Gail Rodrigues is here, right?
Yes,
Gail, are you back on the
I'm
committee?
back.
Well, I wasn't sure. I was like, all right, so Gail's here. I'm like, all right, so welcome back on the finance
Thank you.
committee.
Yeah,
All
Welcome
right.
back.
Gail, it's deja vu.
yeah,
Okay.
really. Hi, John.
All right, so you're back. You're a member. All right, very good.
Yeah, this is my first meeting, actually, so.
Okay.
She came on,
All right.
she came on the school committee, on the finance committee when I was chair. So
Right.
So did I.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't
Gail
wanna
was
remember
Gail was
that
here when
one,
I
but-
started. All right, so if there's no further discussion on this article, does everybody want to vote on the articles as we go through each one? Or do you want to go through them all and then go back and vote on them?
I'm good one at a time.
Yeah, I'll go
Vote
with
each-
that.
Vote
Yes.
each one as we go through it?
Yeah,
Okay,
You just have to do the roll call vote. That's the only pain, I think, on Zoom.
okay, yeah, so we have to go through each person individually. Okay, so we'll put this through a vote. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second? There was a second?
Yeah, a number of us did it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I guess I'll go, I'm yes.
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 You
Yes.
actually, we should actually say our names and
Okay,
then the yes. So Ron Melbourne, yes.
Bob
John
Ferrera,
Miller,
yes.
Yes. Oh, excuse me.
Gail
Mike
is
Bush.
yes.
Delgado, yes.
Mike Boucher, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article number 2. Article number 2 states to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds or otherwise provide a sum of $15,750 for the purpose of funding the town planner to prepare the preliminary components and framework of the 2021 through 2031 Town of Acushnet Master Plan, including concept planning for the Slocum Street corridor, or to take any other action relative thereto.
I really, due to a lot of, the conditions that we're now faced with, I can see a need for this master plan even more than I did, say, 3 months ago. So the changing housing market is going to put some great demands on town services and available land that we have. So I think that, so this is probably cries out for immediate implementation if we can.
Julie, I have a question. Does not having a master plan affect the town's bond rating or affect our ability to get any grant monies?
Not that I know of, would it impact it negatively? It's obviously a positive. When we look at those things, having a master plan, it's very highly looked upon, but I don't know that they would deduct points if
Okay.
we didn't have it updated.
Okay. I'm assuming this would be funded out of free cash.
Yes, so this would be free cash.
Okay.
Mike, this is Gail. Does anyone know what this 15,750 is buying exactly?
Julie, you want to
Yeah.
touch base?
So this is an amount that would be paid to our town planner in order to update the master plan. So this morning with the Board of Selectmen, he went through, it'll be 2 phases. It'll take about 2 years for him to complete the master plan in its entirety. Phase 1 he had listed is really setting up the vision, the goals, land use and housing elements, and doing extensive data collection. So that would be the first year, and the 15,750 would be his compensation for doing that phase of the work.
So there will be more money coming for him to finish.
Yes,
Is he not an employee?
he is an
Yeah.
employee of the town.
Julie, I'm 100% for the master plan, but deadly against the Slocum Street corridor. I think that's a waste of money, and the people that own the land down there definitely don't want to sell it. I can't see that. It's ridiculous to route the trucks all the way down there to get onto the street down the end. That's ridiculous.
But Mr. Chair,
Yes.
passing this article does not necessarily that we approve of that Slocum Street.
Well, that's what I said. John, I just said that. I'm for the town planner.
Right.
For the
Right, but
plan.
like I said, we no way are we improving in any way, of that Slocum Street. It's just maybe mentioned that he's going to look at the
He's
feasibility.
been doing it for 3 years now, 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, so I mean, I agreed, the article, at least as it was approved by the selectmen, it does include that phrase for the Slocum Street corridor, but that doesn't mean it'll be ultimately part of the plan. And, I think it's a good time to mention too, and I haven't been through a master plan update myself, but I understand that a master plan, there's a lot of work done by not just the planner, by the community as a whole, to make the plan and to make it how they want it. So I'd encourage you and anyone else who's interested, if we have this approved and we're going through the process, to join the planning committee that's involved in the master plan. They bring up all the issues, they discuss them, they look at them, and ultimately they help to construct the final master plan. So I'm sure it's something that's been talked about. I'm sure it'll be considered, but as John said, whether it's ultimately included in there, that'll be up to the group as they work through it.
Are there any benchmarks as to progress over the 12 months?
So I had a side discussion after our meeting this morning that we would have to build that because it's not something that you can just throw $15,000 and good luck to you. We would absolutely be setting something up. I don't have it now, and again, it's hard. This all came on really quick. We planned the town meeting for MSBA, and we threw up the opportunity for other people to add articles, and time is obviously not on our side. So we will absolutely be coming up with some type of agreement that lists these are the components, these are the responsibilities for the first year for the 15,750, and include benchmarks, and obviously compensation would be aligned with the work that's completed. So we'll make sure we have that in place. I don't have it yet, but we'll make sure we have that in place before any kind of payment is done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Julie, can I ask something? Is there a way you can kind of, as we're going through here, it's hard for me to understand exactly, and maybe somewhat because I'm not an expert here on town finances yet. But you know, there's a lot of articles in here looking for money, and then there's different places it seems like it's being transferred from, and some of it could be cash and other things. I guess it's hard for me to have a comfort level going through here without knowing, okay, after we go in and we approve all of these articles and we look back, and is there enough money to pay for all of this stuff when we add all of this up? I feel like we have to balance some things, or what's more important than something else perhaps, or is there just going to be enough cash at the end that, I mean, how tight is this? I don't have a good feel for, you know, where we're going with each article as compared to the other articles and the need and the money that's actually available, you know.
Yeah.
Any
So
kind of framework you can apply?
yeah, so I do have a document now. I wish I'll see if I can send it to you guys, or if I send it to Kathy, maybe she can send it out during the meeting if you're at your computer and you have access to your email. So we do have a spreadsheet that shows all of the sources of funds. I know I put it at the top of the draft articles so you could see the available funding, but this spreadsheet would then show you know, how much is coming from each bucket to show that at the end of the day, we do have enough to cover. Initially, if you look at the articles that you've received, there isn't enough money in free cash to cover them. And so the selectmen earlier today, they did make changes on 2 of the articles to lower the amounts so that we would have enough free cash to balance with what we have available. So I'll try to send this to you now so that you guys can get it in the background. But yeah, I mean, I do have it. The articles as adapted with those 2 are enough to cover all of the funding that we have.
Okay, because when I looked at it briefly the other day, I had over $1 million in all of these things, and you're right, there's only like 600,000 in free cash. So I was wondering how we were evaluating.
Well, yeah. It's not all going to come out of free cash, correct, Julie?
No, it's not. No.
Some of the monies will come from the golf fund, the water surplus fund. When we get to those articles, I think you'll see that. But Ron, I do have some concerns as well with some of the bigger items that we're going to get to, you know, in a little bit. So I think we'll touch base on that in a little bit.
Okay.
Any other discussion on Article 2?
I guess I just have one more question, and this work falls outside of this employee's job responsibilities. I guess I'm just confused about why he's getting additional money. That's all.
So this was a long conversation, if you watch the selectmen's meeting from this morning. And essentially what it comes down to is the employee is a part-time employee. And so this would be outside. I mean, this is a massive project. It's a 2-year project. So the amount of work that's involved in the master plan is outside the regular duties for this employee who's a part-time employee.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Julie,
welcome.
Mr. Chair, you know,
yes,
to Julie,
Yep.
we chose a private consultant to do this. How much more money would it cost rather than having an in-house person?
When we looked at this in the spring, and in the spring we were considering it as one whole phase, so one lump sum. And I believe at the time the amount for the employee was $26,000 total for the whole thing. So I would assume that when the second phase comes, it'll be closer to $10,000, so it'll equal that same amount. But at the time, the estimates that I heard from SERPED, who does do master planning for a lot of towns, was between 60,000 and 120,000, depending on the size of the community and the needs. So we're definitely saving money doing it in-house. But I mean, unfortunately, it's just not a cheap thing.
Yeah, when we had the discussion, preliminary discussion a few months ago, I think, it was concluded that we were getting quite a bargain. And
Yes.
if I remember the discussion correctly.
He gets us quite a bit of grant money also to help the town out. I mean, he's worth every penny we pay him, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that, Bob, and I think it kind of sets up a good vision for the town, for the next 10 years. Because if we don't have a plan, then, we're trying to do things on the fly. I think it's much better to have
Oh, definitely.
something in place. So I agree with that.
Okay, I mean, I'm certainly willing to make a motion that we approve Article 2.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm in favor. Mike Boucher.
Gail votes yes.
It was yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Bob Furr, yes.
We do. John Howcroft, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Capital Expenditure Fund a sum of $15,000 for the purpose of vehicle refurbishments for the fire/EMS vehicle fleet, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Julie, do you know what this covers?
I think he has multiple vehicles that have been in need of repair. He had an article at our last town meeting for 35,000, and that's nearly all spent, but there is a little bit of work left to do. The chief didn't elaborate a lot on it today, but he does have backup for, I think, estimates for the vehicles for the work that needs to be done. So I can definitely get that from him.
Those ambulances in particular are constantly making runs. And I think some of the maintenance, some of this money is going for maintenance of those ambulances.
Mm-hmm.
And ambulances pay for themselves with the money they receive for the duties they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike Boucher is in favor.
Gail Rodrick, yes.
Bob Furr, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Delgado's yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, as previously mentioned.
Julie, I'm sorry, Mike.
I'm sorry.
That's coming out of free cash?
That's coming out of the capital expense funds.
That's capital expense. Thank you.
Yep. And Kathy, I just sent an email to you with the spreadsheet. So if you can forward it to everyone in the meantime, at
Okay,
least
sure.
some of you will. Thank you.
Okay, so we're on to Article 5, since Article 4 was pulled by the Board of Selectmen. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Water Special Revenue Fund surplus a sum of $71,500 to complete a risk and resilience assessment and an emergency response plan required to be filled with the EPA before June 30th, 2021, or to take any other action relative thereto. So Julie, this sounds like this is something that we have no choice, we have to do.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful Kathy Silva from the DPW is here. So who better than the expert to answer some of your questions on this? Kathy will be able to take right over.
Hi, everybody. I know I haven't met most of you. I'm Kathy Silver. I work for Dan at the DPW, and he couldn't make it tonight, so I'm going to fill in for him. The EPA is requiring, we do a lot of requirements with the DEP. This is the first time we have to work with the EPA. So this is called a risk and resiliency plan that we have to file by June 30th of 2021. And then within 6 months, we have to file an emergency response plan, basically to the risk and resiliency plan. The risk and resiliency plan has 9 parts that we have to look at. A lot of it is for natural hazards, financial, if the town has financial problems, how are we going to work with the water? Our biggest one is New Bedford is where we get our water from. So what would happen if something happened in New Bedford? What's our backup plan? So we just need to have something in place with the EPA on all of these things. It's good for 5 years once we certify. And as I told the select board, once we have a good plan and I work with the engineering group on this, in 5 years from now, I should be able to rewrite it and update it as we go along. So hopefully this plan will last a good 15 to 20 years.
Kathy, do you think the 71,000 will cover everything, or?
Yes, Woodward and Curran is the one that gave us the proposal. They're going to do the risk and resiliency, going to do the EPA plan, and then they're actually going to do some training with the DPW, because part of the DEP's requirements is that we also need the emergency response plan, but we need to have training with it. So they're going to help us cover EPA and DEP at the same time. It covers everything, which is great.
Perfect.
You have a question, Bob?
Which Bob?
St. Jean.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay. Kathy, I believe this is the first time we've been required to do this for the town, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, this is the first time. And then once we do this, it will be every 5 years after this.
Okay. What initiated this project?
So the biggest thing is natural hazards and actually human, I guess, when human terrorists, I guess, because they're concerned of, are we protected if, something bad happens with a flood or a natural hazard, but also if something happens, if somebody dumps something into
For the
our
water source.
Exactly. So the EPA wants to make sure that we have a plan to deal with all of this if it happens. God forbid, hopefully it won't happen. But what
Right.
we do if it did happen.
Okay, makes sense.
No, in other words, this is an insurance policy we hope we never use.
Exactly.
Got it.
I'll make a motion, we accept.
Second motion.
Okay, I am in favor. Mike Boucher.
Sue Delgado,
I'm
yes.
St. Jean, yes.
Ron Melbourne.
Gail Rodrick's, yes.
Bob Ferrer, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
And Ron, Ron, are you in favor?
Yeah, I said yes. I got dogs that were going crazy behind
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure everybody answered.
me. I had to mute, but
Okay.
yes.
All right. So I believe the motion passes without opposition. Okay. On to Article 6. To see if the town will vote to transfer from the school budget to the sewer surplus account the sum of $110,000 for reimbursement for the school sewer pump, or to take any other action relative thereto. This is the amount removed from the sewer surplus to purchase the pump for the school, as shown in Article 15 of the annual town warrant dated June 5th, 2017, and has now been determined to be unusable for any other residents' sewer needs. This article will need to be modified to reflect the fact that the school budget is not an available source of funds. It will need to be pulled from free cash.
Just so you know, this, obviously you guys all got the initial draft list of articles. I'm working with town council to update them. And that was my note for those that we can't pull from the school budget. We'll be pulling this from free cash. The school did turn back some money at the end of the year last year. So that's generated free cash, and that's how we're getting them to, quote unquote, pay it back. And just another note that once I have the final version of the warrant with the changes from town council, there are slight wording changes. I'll make sure you guys, I'll get an updated copy, but this was the original draft that came out.
So, okay, Julie, just to make sure, because the brain is not working very well tonight. So the school committee got $110,000 from the sewer surplus account back in 2017.
Yes. The $110,000 was appropriated at town meeting from the sewer, and it was used for the sewer pump station. So the sewer contributed 110,000, and then the school, from their budget, they contributed 100,000 for the total project. At the time, the sewer, the DPW was informed by the consultant that repairing or replacing the sewer pump station would lead to sewer availability for other residents. So that's why sewer contributed, because they figured, this was going to be something that would be valuable to them and to their users going forward as well. So they paid a portion. And since then, and Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but since then they've determined that that was an error. There is no availability for anyone else to use the pump station to gain access to the sewer from the school. And so that's why they're looking for their contribution to be returned.
Got it. So the sewer for the sewer pump for the school cost us $210,000.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mike Boucher is a yes.
Gail Rodricks, yes.
Bob Furry, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado's yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
John Howcroft, yes, I think.
Yes, I think that's everybody. All right, so the motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article number 7. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $275,000 for the purpose of purchasing a John Deere 544 loader for use within the Department of Public Works, or to take any other action relative thereto.
This would be coming from free cash.
All right, so Julie, I have a question. This is obviously a big ticket purchase. How urgent of a need is this?
I'll let Kathy speak to this. I know it's urgent. I know it's important. It's very important.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the best I can because Dan was actually dealing with this one. So this is a loader that was from 2002. And Dan was worried that it wasn't gonna make it through last winter. And we worked out great because we didn't have a winter, which was great. But he's so worried that if we get hit with a blizzard, this is one of their main machines that they use to move snow. I mean, they use this year round, but this is one of the ones they use all winter long to get snow moved all around. So he's concerned that it won't make it through the winter. And if it dies, we're out of luck. So, I mean, he said, could it hold together till next year? Possibly. He doesn't want to take the chance.
What's the typical useful life of one of these vehicles, Kathy?
Well, this one's already 18 years old. So I'd say it's 3 years past its due date.
Fine. Okay.
And I'll add to, Dan brought this up earlier, that they would keep the old loader and keep it at the recycling center, right, Kathy?
Correct, yes.
So to kind of keep that in use and managing some of the dirtier work so that the new loader wouldn't have to be bogged down with the recycling stuff, but it would still be in use. And, like that, it's one of those, I think Dan referred to it as like the main lifeblood of the town. So You
Yes,
can't do
yes.
anything without, yeah, you
Yeah.
can't do anything without it. So could it survive another year? Maybe, but if it died, it would really, really hurt the town. And obviously it's expensive to replace. So it would take a town meeting appropriation to replace at that point.
Would bonding for 5 years be a better better in financing it, or better to go with a straight 200 and some odd $1,000?
So this was discussed earlier today as well. It could be financed. My only comment would be it would require a debt exclusion, and we would need to have a ballot in order to approve a debt exclusion. We have the borrowing for MSBA on here, and it's a large amount, but our plan isn't to include it as a debt exclusion. Our plan is to use the capital expense fund to cover the amount. We don't have a plan in place if we were to borrow for this. So if we had to do a debt exclusion, we wouldn't have enough time to do that.
Thank you.
Can they lease equipment like that?
Well, I guess we could lease equipment. I just think in the long run, it would be more expensive.
Probably, yeah, you're right, probably right, yeah.
Yeah, because, Dan's great at fixing and holding things together.
Yeah, he sure is, yeah.
It's much more expensive to lease.
Okay,
Yes.
that answers my question.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have one more question for Julie. Julie, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but if we fund whatever articles we have in front of us with free cash, what's the balance going to be left in free cash?
Yeah. We're going to use all of the free cash that we have available.
So that amount that's listed on here, 587,999, that whole amount will be used to fund whatever's in front of us here.
That's correct.
Okay.
So where's our safety money if something happens, Julie?
So this money is the free cash that was left over from last year. This is part of the certification for FY20. You remember we carried it forward because we weren't sure about the town's economic status for FY21. And as of right now for FY21, the state has said that they're level funding. So far they have level funded payments to us. They still haven't voted a final budget, but the new budget, I forget the House maybe, just approved a budget and they've level funded. It's still going through all of the different groups that vote on that budget before it becomes finalized, but they have essentially guaranteed to the towns that they'll level fund for this year. So we feel a bit more comfortable using this money, and then we would still have all of the free cash that will be certified for FY21. It's just like any other year, essentially. But yeah, I mean, it is still a consideration if we want to use this up in full or not. I just think, at least for FY21, as it stands right now, we should manage this year fine. The question mark is still now FY22.
So for fiscal year 21, we had assumed some drop in state aid, right? Like 5,
Yeah.
10, I don't remember.
We did 5% cut.
We did a 5% cut, okay. And so it's into how much money? Because presumably that should.
Yeah, so it was a little over 400,000. So as long as we get the money from the state as planned, we should have a surplus of about $400,000, assuming we receive all of our other local aid. We have a decent buffer in those revenue sources as well. So even with the decline, I know, the selectmen recently approved waiving the fees for the alcohol licenses this year. I think it amounts to about $13,000 in local receipts that they've waived for the restaurants in Acushnet, knowing that they've taken a hit this year. as an act of good faith for them. So yeah, there are certainly other revenues that will be shortened or reduced this year, but I think we have enough of a buffer that we should end up with a surplus if the state gives us the level funding. And I'll also add, when we reached out to everyone to ask for articles for town meeting, we really pushed everyone that these should be essential. So if you know, you've looked through these articles as we go through them, these are all essential. You know, even this loader that we've talked about, it's an important thing. Obviously, it's up to the town to vote whether they want to use the money that could be used on something else on this, but it was brought forward because we felt there was an emergency need for it, as you know, same for a lot of these other items that are on here. So these should be high necessities for the town to be considered. We're not just, you know, frivolously spending is the idea behind this town meeting.
To go back to Kathy from the DPW. So if something happened to the existing loader that we have, Dan's of the opinion that it could not be fixed.
Correct. He's fixed it a few years now. It's been band-aided together for 2 or 3 years. He's been nervous for a few years, so he's a little worried, but it's still workable, which is good. You know, he said maybe it will make it through the winter. He can't promise it this year. The good thing is, like Julie said, we'll use it as a backup at the recycling center. And when it is to a point we can't use it anymore, then he can use it for the parts for the new loader, you know, when that starts to fall apart. You know, Dan tries to hold everything together as long as he can.
No, I know he does a really good job.
Yeah.
So without that piece of equipment, we couldn't do adequate snow removal during the course of the winter?
We could not. That's the main equipment, the DPW. Year round, we use the loader, but that would be scary in the winter if we had a blizzard.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, I think the only other option would be to, if we don't get it and it falls apart, we lease it for a year and then get it next year. But leasing is a lot more expensive, so I'm not sure that you know, that's kicking the can. I'm not sure we're at the point that we kick the can.
Yeah, I think if we didn't get the loader this year and it did break, we'd either have to lease it or we'd have to hire one of our snowplow drivers that hopefully has one, that we'd have to pay them to use their loader, and I don't know what that would cost.
And I imagine this isn't the type of equipment you can get at the last minute.
No.
Right? There's like a lead time.
Right, exactly.
Do you know how
Yes.
long?
I don't. I'm sorry, I don't know that information.
I can imagine in a blizzard, though, there are probably a lot of other towns that might be looking for.
True.
They're using it, so it would probably be harder to get one in an emergency situation.
And if the forecasters are correct, we're going to have a wet, snowy winter. That's what I've heard and read.
Did we have a motion yet? I can't remember.
No.
I'll make a motion. Oh, we do have a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I made the motion.
do?
Bob St. Jean made the motion.
We have a second?
I believe I seconded it.
Okay.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Ron Melbourne, I vote yes.
John
Bob-
Howcroft, I vote yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Bill Rodrigues, yes.
Ferrer, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Mike Boucher, yes. Is that everybody? I think that's everybody, correct?
Good.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. On to number 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Water Special Revenue Fund surplus the sum of $150,000 to replace the water pipeline on Nye Avenue, or take any other action relative thereto. So I would imagine this is an urgent need, Julie.
I'll let Kathy, are you up to date on this one?
Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so let me try to explain this one. So this is actually something that the select board asked Dan to put on, because this is something we looked into. All of this pipe on this street was put in 1917. So when we did yeah, when we did our water study, we know what all the pipes are, how old they are. At some point, we're gonna have to start replacing them. When we went to look at what it would be to hire out to do this versus having Dan's group do this, Dan's group could do it a lot cheaper. The only thing is we have to make sure that Dan's group can do it. So this is kind of like gonna be a test to see how it would work with the DPW replacing the piping as we go. It's something we probably should do every year, trying to replace at least 1 or 2 lines that are out there, because this is one of the oldest, 1917, 1916. Those ones we have, like 2 or 3 that are that old. They shouldn't be more than 100 years old. You know, that makes you nervous. You're gonna start to have water breaks. So really more of a test. We wanna know in our water plan, can Dan's group do it? If yes, it's gonna save a lot of money. If no, we have to look at the plan and say, well, how much is it gonna cost to hire it out? And that's gonna be a whole different ballgame because it's gonna be a lot more expensive. So this is a kind of a test for Dan's group to see if they can do it in the spring and save the town a lot of money. And this is the oldest line, so that's why we did this one first.
Makes sense.
And I'll add to, I know that the water department has been working to build up a surplus. Water's done a great job. You know, I think they have a little over or close to over $1 million in their surplus for the end of the year last year, which is exactly what you want to use with this money. You know, you build it up so that you have enough in reserves so that you can take it and then start making, you know, the important capital changes that are needed for the department without giving a hit to the water users. So this is somewhat what they have planned for all these years. And like Kathy said, you know, you anticipate keeping that surplus at a healthy level so that every year or every couple of years you can make the updates that are needed, again, without giving a hit to those users.
I have a question for Kathy. So going back to the previous article with the loader for $275,000, is that something that Dan would be able to actually use in a project like this?
He might be able to use the loader. I'm not sure what equipment.
Or would he need a piece of equipment like that to complete a project like this?
My thought is probably because it's the one that carries the heaviest equipment, so he'd have to do things. So it would probably need to be used in the water department.
Kathy, do you have an estimate of how many the pipelines we're going to need to replace? How many are really old that need replacing? Just for a sense of magnitude.
Right on top of my I'm going to guess, I'm not in the office with my list right now, but I say that there's at least 10 that are between 1916, 17 time frame to like 1925. So there's at least 10 that we need to start looking at.
Thank you.
So potentially there's a big savings with having Dan be able to do these kind of projects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge savings, yes.
What's Dan's retirement plan? we need to work within Dan's retirement plan.
I ask him that all the time. He's not thinking anytime soon, so that's a good thing.
Fabulous. Okay. Let us know, Kathy, when that changes.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions, or you want to pass a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Okay, I'll go first. Mike Boucher, I'm a yes.
Bob St. Jeans, yes.
John Melbourne, yes.
Gail Rodricks, yes.
Bob Furry, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
And Sue Delgado's yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article number 9. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $60,000 for the purpose of purchasing a 2021 Chevrolet full-size K1500 Silverado pickup truck with commercial utility cap for the use of the animal control officer, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Julie, do we know what this is replacing? How old the current vehicle is? What's the condition?
Yep. And actually, Becky's on the line here too, so she can answer a lot of that. I know that I believe the vehicle she has currently is a 2013. And the main issue, and I'll let Becky take over, is the current vehicle is a two-wheel drive, and she is just constantly going off-road to different locations, and a two-wheel drive vehicle has just been a huge detriment for her. Becky, I'll let you expand. I don't want to take over for you, but you're the best person to explain it.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. How are you doing tonight?
Hi.
Yeah, so the van, more and more animal control departments are going to four-wheel drive vehicles, and especially where we live in a rural town, and I cover both Rochester and Acushnet, there have been more times than none when the weather is the slightest increment, my van is out of control. Last year, I was on an emergency in Rochester, and I got into the place just fine, but I could not get out. And I had to have a tow come down at 10 o'clock at night to tow me out of the situation that I was in. We have a lot of streets and roads in Acushnet that have the slightest hill, and I have gotten stuck more times than I can say. I do barn inspections, I'm responsible for those, and obviously my farms have long roads and they're off the road. And again, the slightest snow, wet, I am constantly getting stuck, and that is detrimental when I am in an emergency situation.
Can we use your current vehicle for anything at another department within the town?
I've talked to Dan about that. We've talked about trading it in for also a trade when we do this. Right now, my vehicle needs brand new tires, and I'm putting that off in hopes that I'm going to get approved for this because I really want to go with that expenditure. And also, I just think it'll be more of a detriment to the town. It does have low mileage, but again, if they're going to be using it in the winter and they have to go to certain places, I believe they're going to get stuck.
Having experience of a van years ago, all the weight is in the front, and therefore very easily to get stuck. You know, it's just the way they're constructed. So I can understand your issue on this one.
Absolutely.
Can I ask about the price though? And is there something about the vehicle that 60,000 just to me sounds high? I bought two commercial trucks last year, both 2,500 models, one a Chevy, one a GMC, and they were significantly less than 60. Is there some kind of
the additional monies is going to be for the additional work that we have to put into the truck, which the DPW will help me do, which is a rack on the back of the truck for dead animals. And then I also need to put a separator in the truck so that I can have animals to be put in the truck out of my safety, and then also for storage. So whatever extra monies that we do not use, that would be handed back over to free cash.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing about this vehicle also is that it's coming with 4-inch black assist steps, which is also going to be for my safety in slippery weather, because obviously 4-wheel drive is a little bit higher. But even with this van, if we were to put the assist steps on this van, that was going to cost an additional $1,000.
Thanks, Rebecca. Rebecca, do you know the actual sticker price on the vehicle?
The actual sticker price that came back from Liberty was 48 and change.
Okay.
And so going over the additional monies with Dan for the additional work that I would be doing with him, and you know, with the radio and extra essentials that I do need on the vehicle. And again, whatever we don't use will be turned right back to free cash.
Okay. Thanks for the explanation.
Very welcome, because we generally put in an additional, it's a cage operation. And in the past, when I've gotten new vehicles, the DPW has installed that in there for me. So it's just a safety regulation. And also I have found that over the years and working with different departments, animal control departments, large animals don't like going into steel cages. They get frightened by that. And so it's a safety on my side and it's a safety on the animal side to get them into an open area that they're not enclosed.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions for Rebecca?
This would be coming from free cash, just to throw that out there.
I'll make a motion to accept the article.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mike Boucher is in favor.
Gail Rodrigues.
Sorry about Gail.
Go ahead.
Bob Furry, yes.
Gail Rodrigues, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
And I believe that's everyone. Motion passes without opposition.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
You're welcome. On to Article number 10, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the golf course retained earnings fund a sum not to exceed $80,000 for the purpose of cart path work, replacement of leaking isolation shutoff valves, which is part of the irrigation system, additional sprinklers, replacement of a 14-year-old bunker rake, replacement of a 14-year-old grass leaf blower, replacement or leasing of a 14 9-year-old golf carts, and or other necessary and proper expenditures approved by the Golf Management Committee and the Board of Selectmen, or to take any other action relative thereto.
I'll make a motion to accept that one. Being on the golf course committee.
I'll second that.
I just ask a question. Sorry.
No, go right ahead, Sue.
Okay, so $80,000 coming from retained earnings. This is current year profits, Julie, or prior year profits?
Prior year profits.
Yeah, so this was prior year profits. Okay. Didn't we have something last year for golf that came out of, that was paid for outside of?
Yeah, they had an article last year, like in the 2019 town meeting. I think it was for 100,000. It was between 80 and 100,000. I can't remember off the top of my head. And they do have a small amount of that left that's carried forward. They also have $100,000 in a reserve fund, similar to the town's general reserve fund. They put money into their reserve fund, $100,000 every year that they haven't touched yet either. So this would be in addition to the money that was carried forward from the old article and their reserve fund.
And so what's the purpose of what is the reserve fund being earmarked for?
The reserve fund isn't earmarked for anything right now. It's just similar to the town. If there are unforeseen expenses, they're able to use that money without having to go to town meeting. It would be the selectmen and the finance committee approving a transfer.
Okay. And Bob, since you're on the golf committee, what sort of expenditures would you guys see as being warranting using that instead of, profits? When would you go to that instead of your retained earnings?
Well, the golf carts and the golf pass, we really need that. That saves a lot of money on the groundwork because you got people going across that, and for safety purposes. Because last time I was out playing golf out there, some of the golf passes were really
Yeah.
had big ruts in them and stuff, and very easy to bump somebody out of one of the golf carts. So
No, yeah, no disagreement that this needs to be done. I guess I'm just trying to understand what the golf committee would see as needing to. So I guess let me back up for a second, Julie. When there's excess in retained earnings, when does the town ever get any of it?
No, they're
golf course is a
because they're
separate entity.
enterprise. Yeah, because they're an enterprise fund. Any money they make stays with the enterprise fund.
So Julie, I just want to, so essentially the golf course retained earnings is essentially like a savings account for the golf course. And it comes from strictly user fees that are collected during the course of the golf season. And just so the viewers out there know who's watching or listening, this is not money that comes out of taxation. This is strictly from user fees. The golf course sustains itself.
Correct. Not one penny comes from taxation.
Correct.
So how does the golf committee decide how it's funding this request? You know, why is it coming from retained earnings and not from the reserve or not from the other surplus money you have? I guess that's a question for Bob.
I'll have to talk with the chairman of the committee. And
Do you remember how you decided to do this?
We haven't had actual meetings, just the chairman and the selectmen have been meeting on this. The rest of the golf committee hasn't been involved in this for the last month or two.
Okay. No, I was just following up really on Sue's original question, which is,
I understand.
What's the difference?
Yeah, so I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really change whether it comes out of this reserve fund or whether it comes out of retained earnings. It's all still within the golf enterprise fund. So
correct.
I guess I think I was looking at it more from, maybe I misunderstood where the money came from last year for that article. So that didn't come out of the town.
Oh, no.
Last
No,
year.
no.
Okay. Okay, I'm at peace then.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah,
I'll
we
make
had a
a
motion
motion.
in a second.
Oh, we had a motion and a second?
Yeah, we already
All
had a
right.
motion in a second.
Okay, Mike Boucher is a yes.
Sue Delgado's a yes.
All for a yes.
Ron Milborn, yes.
Gail
John
Rodrigues,
House,
yes.
yeah. Oh, sorry, Gail, go ahead.
Sorry, Gail Rodrigues, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
I think Ron answered, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, so motion passes without opposition. Okay, on to Article 11. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds or otherwise provide the sums recommended or any other sum or sums for the capital improvement budget for the school as set forth in the following schedule and determine whether such sums will be provided by taxation or by transfer or by a combination thereof. So if everybody can see, there's a chart from the school department. So this pertains to a science curriculum, a reading curriculum, and a developmental reading assessment program. Each one has its own price. The science curriculum, the department request is $59,972. The reading curriculum is priced at $50,000. And the developmental reading assessment is priced at $15,750 for a total of $125,000, $125,722 altogether for this request. Now, on the last column where it says source of funds, it says free cash. So Julie, I'm assuming this would be all coming out of free cash?
Yes, this is all coming from free cash and
Not taxation.
no.
Okay.
And so this is one of the articles that was adjusted by the Board of Selectmen. You know, obviously we talked about at the beginning, we were about $100,000 short from the requests for free cash and what we had available for free cash. So this number was reduced slightly for the school. Ultimately, they took the majority of the reduction from the science curriculum. So we left reading curriculum at $50,000, the developmental reading assessments at the $15,750, and the selectmen lowered the science curriculum to $11,499 for a total of $77,249. And the schools, we've talked about this before. We opted with giving the full amount of the reading curriculum because they've just scored so low in reading over the past few years. They've been pushing for the reading specialist. I think they would have gotten it last year had COVID not happened. If you remember at their meeting, they, really pushed for adding that position in, and I think they had a lot of support from the selectmen and the finance committee. But then obviously when we had to make cuts due to COVID, that was a new position that ended up getting cut. So reading curriculum to the selectmen this morning seemed like the better option to fully fund with the free cash. The assessments were reading based as well and seemed very important. So the remainder of the money we had left over that we were able to give to science, we opted to give. So it slightly cut their science curriculum request, but hopefully they can make up for it with their own budget or save some of that for next year.
So Julie, just to go back, so what's the total again that we're funding out of free cash for this article?
So the total from this article will be $77,249.
Okay.
A question. Due to COVID and all the changes, in implementation of partial virtual, curriculum and everything, how will this integrate with now doing due to this emergency?
So the school, when they talked earlier today, said obviously, a curriculum was a huge thing for them even before COVID. I think in their description, they said that they had no science curriculum for a lot of the classes. Reading obviously was struggling and old and outdated. And now with COVID, having the curriculum also means having, the digital software to go with the curriculum. With the hard texts, there's a lot of digital. And now with COVID, I think a lot of the programs have come out with better digital formats. Mm-hmm. So I think they would have looked for this anyway, but I think the timing is good with COVID that, they can take advantage of some new curriculum that will offer more digital availability.
To be honest with you guys, I'm not happy with this one. I don't like not fully funding that science program. When I start looking at some of the other things we've taken for free cash, and I feel like we're robbing our kids of the education they should be getting. I'm looking at $110,000 for transferring from back to the sewer transfer from the school, and we're doing I don't know, we got $600,000 in free cash, and we're cutting out the education for our kids. This is what I was talking about when we're looking at these things as a whole. I don't like this, cutting this one. I know the selectmen have already trimmed this one down, and it's maybe there might be more set in stone here, but I just don't, to me, I don't like it. It doesn't feel right to me, sorry to say.
Well, if I can add into part of the discussion this morning was also over the timing of implementation. And obviously, if they get approved this, they're going to order stuff soon, but there's also, I think you'll probably know this too, Ron, having a school background. it's not just buying the books, then there's training for the teachers on the new curriculum, training the staff. There's a lot of other work before it can actually get unloaded. It's not as easy as just buying it and then using it. So I think the thought was also, we'll give them as much as we can right now. They did make a slight cut to the science, but hoping that maybe in the spring we'll be able to fund more of it. And again, the timing will work out where maybe they could have reading implemented and then science would be on its way anyway, because they can't implement everything at the same time. That was part of the discussion, at least this morning.
All right.
But Julie, what is, I'm sorry if I heard correctly, there'd be like 17,000 to the science curriculum. What does that get you?
I know that for science, they had already started purchasing some of it with their operational budget. And they had certain grades that they had bought curriculum for. So their request was looking at funding, I believe it was K through 4. That wasn't included in their original purchase or what they had implemented so far. So they were just looking to try to fill in the rest of the void for the science program. So, I mean, I can't tell you exactly what it'll buy, but we figured we'd rather give them the extra money than put it into like stabilization or something. And again, hoping that maybe they could use it to maybe fill in one of the grades and get them closer to being able to fulfill the full need for the whole, K through 8.
Julie, what was the actual cost for that science thing? I know it was 59,000 something. What was the actual, what did they change it to?
I have it here. I do. Okay, so I'm just gonna read it. She has a little blurb about science. She said, science, there's currently no science curriculum at the elementary school. The initial plan for the 2020 to 2021 school year was to purchase Amplify Science for kindergarten through 8th grade. This green-rated inquiry-based program will provide consistency of experience and the spiraling of curriculum that will reinforce and shore up the student learning experience. The available funds for this year provided us with the ability to purchase a limited curriculum for 5th through 8th grade with a purchase order of $27,165.53. We continue to need supplemental materials for 6th through 8th grade as well as a full curriculum for kindergarten through 4th grade. The total purchase order would be $59,972.90. This number was obtained by subtracting the amount purchased for the limited grades 5 to 8 curriculum, which is the $27,165.53, from the total purchase order for K to 8 of $87,148.43. So the total was $87,148.43. And they were able to purchase $27,000 worth so far.
So I guess
So
maybe
instead of 59,000, they're going to be using 27,165.
That's what they've used with their available funds this year. So I'm guessing with some operating money, they've been able to free up $27,165.53. And then with what the selectmen approved, they'd get another $11,499 toward that.
So maybe somebody with a school background can help me with this. When you say there's no curriculum, I mean, I know there's science teachers in all the grades. So what does it mean to say there's no curriculum?
That's a good question, Sue. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know either. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but all I know is I still don't like this one. I still don't like it.
Yeah. No, I hear you, Ron. I'm trying to wrap my arms around to make sure that I understand, what it means, because my daughter happens to be in 5th grade. She sits in Zooms with Mrs. Munier. So when you're telling me there's no science curriculum, I don't know what that means. I also know she just came from the elementary school. My understanding is there really isn't science in the grades, but there's a science specialty. So I guess I don't understand. Is it the materials that we're talking about? That's what we're buying? You know, the books, the labs, for lack of a better word, I don't know what they call them. The
Yeah.
product, you know?
So my understanding is that you're buying the curriculum, which is the books and the workbooks and the digital software to go along with it. I think when they talk about curriculum and no curriculum, my understanding is you want to buy a full package from a company so that you already have it in order. It's already done out for you that kindergarten learns this through this, and then first grade starts from that point and learns to here, and it all kind of flows, and you already have a basis that you've built on, and it flows throughout the grades.
The curriculum coordinator is supposed to do too, the one that we hired last year.
Yeah, so
I'm struggling. I'm sorry, Julie. I'm struggling now to comprehend. I hear everything you're telling me, and then I'm like immediately thinking, but that's the curriculum coordinator.
Yeah.
We've been told for 5 years that we absolutely need, because there's no continuity. But it sounds like the packages you buy kind of get us there too. So I'm getting.
Yeah. So the curriculum. So she actually, if you watch the meeting, I'm not sure what her title is. Carrie Stoffel is the quote unquote curriculum coordinator that was hired, and she's fantastic. So this is what she presented. Obviously, I'm sure if she had it her way, she would get the full science curriculum from K to 8, and that would resolve the problem. So it seems like they've focused on whatever grades were struggling the most with the curriculum, which I'm guessing is the, what did she say? The 5 to 8 is what they bought already. But then I think they chose this vendor, so they're planning to purchase the full curriculum from that vendor. I just think that, if they bought 5 to 8, now that's secure, but now K through 4 could be on somewhat of a different plan because they're on the old curriculum. So there may be loose ends that need to be connected. And I'm sure she's connecting them with the teachers right now as much as possible, but I don't think anything is as good a substitute as just being able to buy that curriculum to just fill it all in.
That actually does the transition from year to year.
Exactly, yep.
And this would have been a good, Julie, this would have been a good article to have Kristen Flynn here.
She had a prior commitment tonight, so she wasn't able to come, but yeah, agreed. And or Carrie, again, she's fantastic. Watch the meeting if you can, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind taking requests if you guys call over and have questions for them directly. Carrie is just a very intelligent person, and she's just so knowledgeable with this. So I'm sure she would love to talk to any of you and explain a lot of this much better than I can. I'm certainly no expert, but that's my understanding.
So my assumption, though, with what is being presented here in the article as it's been amended is, it's the 77,000 as it's already been talked about, or not. So certainly I'm in favor of approving the 77. But again, I'm just not happy with it being, we're gutting science to be, to pay for a transfer for a school pipe or a sewer pipe or something. But anyway, no, I'll make a motion to approve it. I just think that I hope that the schools come back to us, or we find a way to fund this thing, what they're looking for with this.
Ron, if I could just chime in, Ron. Over the years, the Finance Committee has been very cooperative, and we've worked with the school department, in a very generous manner, in my opinion. And almost typically, there's always been some tough years, but they definitely certainly get what they need at the end of the day. So I don't necessarily think that throwing all kinds of money around necessarily makes a better product, so to speak. That being said, I think, what we're going to spend on this article is, I'm sure, necessary because it was discussed. And, I don't know if there's going to be other curriculum packages that we're going to have to purchase down the road for math or other subjects. That would be something good to know ahead of time.
I think, didn't last year's include a math curriculum?
Yeah, last year was math.
Now, Julie, are they gonna try and work this into their budget for the next time around?
Yeah, there was discussion about that earlier today as well. We'll definitely work on, this year was such a crazy year with the budgets, and I'm sure next year will be too, but we'll make sure that this is discussed in the budget process more. They had a few years ago done the math curriculum as an article, and so that's why they kept it this way. I think they had said that Brian had discussions with them and said he'd prefer it that way, so that's why they continued it. I don't have an issue with it either way, but I agree with you that we at least just want to know ahead of time, does your budget include the curriculum or does it not, so that we know when we're doing the warrant and coming up with the budget for them for every year.
Yes.
Does anybody know, I'm looking at my notes from when we had the school department budget originally, and granted this was kind of pre-COVID. They listed reading specialist at the middle school as a high priority, the special ed teacher. Do we know how much of these high priority items got implemented, if any?
Yeah, I'm sure they can tell you off the top of my head. I know, we really had to keep them to a 2% overall increase at the time, not knowing what was going to happen this year for the economy and our state cuts and everything. So getting them to a 2% cut meant that I know the reading specialist was their main concern and they were not able to add that to their budget. I'm guessing the special ed wasn't either. If they would have had the choice, they would have done the reading specialist. And I know that everybody really pushed hard for that. No one was happy about having to cut that position. We all know how important it is, but at the end of the day, we had to make cuts and keep the budget to the 2%. And so I would imagine they would keep putting this on until we're able to fund it.
Thank you.
I would imagine you'll see that in their budget coming up for next year.
If there are no other questions, I believe we had a motion on this one already. Was there a motion on this one?
I think I made the motion. I don't know.
I believe you did.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail
Offer.
Rodrigues, yes.
Bob Ferry, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, I think that's everybody. The motion passes without opposition. Okay, I believe we have 4 articles left. Number 12 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds or otherwise provide a sum of $100,000 to be added to the OPEB fund as established in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 20, and as amended by the Municipal Modernization Act, Chapter 218 of the Acts of 2016, or to take any other action relative thereto.
So this is the other article that was reduced by the Board of Selectmen, and it was reduced to $50,000. This will be coming from free cash, and the selectmen felt it was important to put on here. We've talked about OPEB so much in the past, and in the spring it was hard to put on. We had to cut a lot of articles that we would otherwise put on, but now seeing where we have the funding to be able to do this is really something that we want to commit to every year. We have financial policies that say we're trying to commit to funding it every year. I think it's fine if we can't fund it to the extent that we have in previous years with the 100,000, but putting something in is more important than the amount necessarily, especially during an economic downturn. Putting 50,000 in will still be highly favored by any of the credit rating agencies. And it's also really good for our financial statements. So.
Agreed.
Motion to accept.
Second. Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail
Bob Curry,
Rogers,
yes.
yes.
Bob Curry, yes.
John
Melbourne.
Howcroft, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Motion passes without opposition. Okay, the next three articles are all coming from the CPA. Number 13 is to see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate the sum of $10,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Act funds account and/or FY21 budgeted reserves of the Community Preservation Act funds for the purpose of purchasing improvements and funding repairs to recreational equipment at the Pope Park Playground located at 96 Pope Street, or to take any other action relative thereto.
It's Bob St. Jean. I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Mike Boucher is a yes.
Gail, yes.
Bob Curry, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
A motion passes without opposition. Number 14, to see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate the sum of $75,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Act funds account and/or the FY21 budgeted reserves of the Community Preservation Act funds for the purpose of improvements and cleaning efforts in the Lake Street, lakes and adjacent recreational grounds located on Lake Street, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Julie, do you know what this 75,000 would cover? Like, what exactly is this going to do for us?
Yeah, so the Lake Street Committee is up and running, where they've been pretty dormant lately. I know Selectman Wonar has been doing a lot of work with the committee. We allowed $5,000, it's a little under $5,000 from the current budget to be spent on testing of the lake. And so we have a company that's doing that work now. And once they get the results, this money would be used based on whatever, testing results come back, it would be used for the remediation of the lake. And I know that they also have a grant that they've applied for that would be in conjunction with these funds. Because I think, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head, the estimated cost is probably close to 150,000. So they're hoping to get 75 from CPC funds, and then the additional money from the grant.
Just to remind people, this was part of the master plan of 2000, this endeavor. So it's taken 20 years to come near fruition. I've got the master plan in front of me, and it's following what they recommended was basically to, if you did something with the old reservoir on the beach, especially what they're talking about, it would require a study to document all contributing pollution sources. So I think, I was going to ask that question as far as, the testing to find all pollution sources, then begin to, remediate the sources of that. And I'm sure it's going to open up some other endeavors in the future, because it's a very complex issue. And secondly of all, I wish you would expand it to look at other parts like temporary flooding, with higher rainfall, and all other, and whether they need improved with probably funding, from grants, maybe improving septic systems in the area, whatever the study and the sources of the pollution lead us to. So I just want to remind that was part of the 2000 master plan.
Yep, and they'll definitely be looking at those other.
It's supposed to be 5 years. It's supposed to be 5 years done in 5 years.
Mhm. But to your point, you know, all the other impacts in that area, I think this is a good start. And those issues that you brought up will all be addressed in the new master plan. And there are lots of grants related to climate change and, you know, everything you just mentioned with the septic systems and the flooding. Those are all relevant for those grants. You know, we're working right now on the MVP planning grant as well. And so there's just a lot of opportunity. I think this is a good starting point to get a sense of the area and what issues there are and work at remediating some of those issues. And then secondary would be, you know, taking it from there and looking at these other grant opportunities. But I agree with you, John.
And also another point is there are farms in the area. Some of them probably use either the river water or the lake water itself for irrigation. And there are new regulations, with the Food and Drug Administration under the Department of Agriculture as far as the quality of the water being used. And so this falls in line to a lot of other necessities of having this done. So just want to add that on to how imperative this is, and how it should be maybe in the future even expanded under this present scope of services.
Thanks, John. So does anybody have any other further discussion with this article?
Bob St. Jean, I know that the Mr. Wonar and the committee has been very active lately. I mean, I've seen them down there on a number of occasions, doing the work that they have to do. So I know there's a lot of interest in that. There's a lot of interest from the community at large at improving that situation. And I think it'd be well served to recommend this article.
Agreed. I think it's a good thing for the town and the residents who utilize Lake Street.
Also, another thought. We know, like, again, with climate change, changing temperature, the amount of potential viruses with mosquitoes and other insects, and thrive in warm, stagnant water that has high nitrate contents. So therefore, it well serves the health of the whole community. So that's why, this is another reason why it's more than just serving, the recreational needs of which are very important, especially with the changing times that we now face. Recreation is going to become a number one type of to promote good mental health. But also this is essential to the health of all our residents, really.
Good point. I'll make a motion to approve this article. Bob St. Jean.
Second it. Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail, yes.
Bob Ferrari, yes.
Ron Melbourne.
John Howcroft, yes.
Delgado, yeah.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
The motion passes without opposition. Last article of the night, number 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate the sum of $5,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Act funds account and or the FY21 budgeted reserves of the Community Preservation Act funds for the purpose of improvements and cleaning efforts at the Acushnet Riverview Park located on River Street, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Don't the Coalition for Buzzards Bay run that?
They're very active in the area. I'll add to this that
that was turned over to them, wasn't it?
The
No.
area, well, not the park. I know that they do, there might be another piece of land over there that they own. But the park is the town's. And so this is kind of brought about because we recently received the Shared Streets and Spaces grant for a little under $13,000. The DPW worked really hard to get this done quickly. So they added a bike path / walking trail that goes along River Street, along the river on River Street, and it cuts through and actually leads all the way out to Main Street. We actually have a ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow morning, hoping that the rain holds off a little bit for us. But to thank, all the governor and the Mass DOT District 5 for giving us the opportunity to do the upgrade there. So if anyone's around tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we'll be having a nice little ribbon cutting ceremony. But, in looking to improve the area, this is another great space in Acushnet on the river. The EPA has done a lot of work from the Superfund cleanup to clean up the river. In that area, we also have right where the Riverview Park is located, there's a stormwater outfall that we're looking at getting a grant from Buzzards Bay to do a cleanup of it. And that would also include adding to the walking area over the outfall. So there's just a lot of work to improve that area. And it's beautiful. So the money from CPA would help make the area more recreational for people who want to take advantage of it. I think there have been more people who are, canoeing in the water. And I think the ultimate hope is to, kind of bridge the gap between the sawmill and then that area. So, people can kind of use the water along there. But if they're looking for just $5,000 to kind of continue the upgrades that they've done already, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot more coming from that area in the future as well.
My wife and I were walking through there today. We took the dogs for a walk through there today. It's really nice out there.
Oh, good. Yeah, the
They did a
DPW
wonderful job.
I'll make a motion to accept the article.
Second.
Hey, Mike Boucher, yes.
Gail Rodricks, yes.
Bob Furry, yes.
Ron Mel,
Howard, yes.
Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion passes without opposition.
Yeah, Mr. I just want to add
Oh,
one
I'm sorry, John.
little comment, on this, not on this issue, but if you read Frank Howland's book, History of Acushnet, that same area was the site of the town's whipping post. So maybe someone can suggest that. They cut the river.
You want to reinstate that, John? Is that your point? Huh?
I think John's volunteering to be the first victim then.
Okay, so that concludes all the articles for the evening. Next on the agenda is an update, a status and updates on the CARES and FEMA grants. So I believe, Julie, you got that?
I think Mel's going to talk, but she's on mute.
Oh,
I'm one of those. Yeah, that's been my baby. Myself and Nick have been working really hard. We did get our first round in from CARES for $187,000. We're still waiting for FEMA. FEMA can take a lot longer. Unfortunately, that's the chunk of the money we're waiting for since they cover 75%. But we are submitting that tomorrow, and as of right now, we have another 500 that we're submitting, and about 135 of that will be CARES and the rest will be FEMA. Because if it's certain parts, CARES does do 100, but that's only technology. Majority of it is only 25. Our concern is we're not 100% sure what FEMA will cover, nor is anybody. things are changing every day. So we are concerned, do we leave a buffer just in case the FEMA won't cover it and we need to go back to CARES? So we will have another round after this, but we want to utilize everything we can, but at the same time, we don't want to overexpend and be in trouble at the end. So right now we were approved for over 900. So we still definitely have a huge buffer to play with. And as we get more information from FEMA, we're definitely, Julie and the Board of Selectmen are the ones approving any big projects or purchases. It has to go through them before it comes to us. So that we're all definitely aware of any big projects happening. So if anyone has questions or.
Sorry, I think I missed the last meeting, so maybe some of this was already covered, but what are we doing with that 900? I'm guessing that's where the devices that the kids go through to test to get their fever, their temperatures checked. That's what we're spending the money on?
Yeah, like 150, Fire got approved for 150 for testing, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's been a lot of testing that he's doing for the town weekly and also for the employees. So there's a big chunk of that, but the school is got approved for 350 for this round from after the first round, because obviously they need to be protected also. So those are probably the two biggest projects that we have right now going on. The elections is a big thing that just started because they have so many extra charges right now, expenditures that's happened since all this is going on. I don't know, Julie, am I missing any of the big projects? I think that was probably it.
In the first round, the school had Chromebooks. That was a big,
yes,
150,000 for Chromebooks to get.
Sorry, what New Bedford has this digital, it's gonna come to me.
The testing thing?
No, it's not testing. It is apparently all of the New Bedford schools already have this and our schools do not. So it's to project the work. And so that way the kids who are remote can actually see what's happening at schools.
Mm-hmm. So like Melissa said, the Board of Selectmen, because we're already managing a lot of projects of our own, we didn't want to have to micromanage the schools in their usage of the funds because they have so many different things going on. So they authorized a blanket $350,000 for the school to spend for whatever it needs. So Melissa, I don't know if you know anything that they've used from the 350 yet, but they could look at things like that in that 350. Do you know, Melissa?
They were at 125, but we recently just got invoices for them yesterday. So that's why I'm waiting till last minute to submit this second round, because I'm trying to enter every possible thing that I can. We definitely but in this round, there was nothing huge. So even if we say 130, they still have a lot to play with.
But the school, the schools could certainly look at that. I'm not sure how much it costs. And like Melissa said too, all of the things that have been approved to date, the schools were approved for a chunk of 350,000 outside of the first round, where they had I think they had like 180,000 between the Chromebooks and other expenses. And with the projects that the town has been approved for so far, we still have like $130,000 buffer that hasn't been approved yet, because the money can be spent through the end of the calendar year. And, we're getting close to that point. There's still 2 months left, so we wanted to leave a buffer in case something comes up, but we also don't want to leave any money on the table at the end of the year and not have gotten it. So yeah, I'm sure the schools could consider that. They're looking at a lot of things, so I'm sure that's something that they've looked at and could potentially be purchasing.
Was the town eligible for the PPP loans? I don't remember if institutions were eligible for them. They're not?
No.
Could any of this money, this grant money, be used to help? Because I know the school department pulled people who were, say, reading specialists or reading, whatever the right terminology is. I always screw it up and get corrected. And pulled them into classrooms to because we increased the kindergarten and first grade. Could that be used to cover salaries for, say, a kindergarten, first grade teacher, so that these reading specialists could go back to what they need to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
this-
this, oh, sorry.
No, just say school do have, they did receive 2 separate grants, a school reopening grant and an ESSER grant. And one, I know that it's for like, they do have one for salaries and they have one for custodians. So they're definitely utilizing that, Jules, but I don't know what it's specific, what teachers
Yeah.
it's for.
So they added more custodians, and they added, I think, 4 long-term subs, 2 for each school, so that they could help cover classes if teachers were out. They are eligible to use CARES, any of the CARES money really, for any expenses that weren't budgeted for.
Yeah.
You know, like they can't say like, oh, we have this thing that we needed anyway, we're going to use it. If, I mean, I guess if you got audited and they would say like, hey, you already had this in the works, you can't use CARES money for it. So certainly adding new teachers, the one, you know, kind of issue with adding teachers with this one-time source of funds is, you know, you're on the hook for a lot of stuff if it's a temporary person. You know, in terms of like benefits and unemployment and retirement, if it's a temporary thing. So we've definitely taken caution with using the one-time funds from CARES to hire people, but you can't avoid it sometimes. So I know custodians, obviously they need to keep the buildings clean, and that's a huge thing that they've been working at. So they hired more custodians, and then the long-term subs to try to help keep a teacher presence, even if a teacher has to be out for some reason. But yeah, I mean, they do have the potential to use it if they need more teachers or more paras. They can certainly use it for that purpose.
Just thinking about the kids that needed the services who are not getting the services because those individuals got pulled.
Mm-hmm.
We're just the reading issue is just getting exacerbated here.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the money that we received, you know, for CARES, we were pre-approved for like $930,000, which seems like a lot of money until you have all these things that you need to spend it on, and it goes really quick, and it actually doesn't take you that far. So, yeah, it's been hard. The schools definitely had to make a lot of difficult decisions with what they want to use the money for and how they can expend it. I guess I'll add to the last thing that was just approved by the Board of Selectmen for the town side. Melissa mentioned the testing, which has been a huge initiative for the town, but the chief was authorized to purchase a trailer, and we're buying it. It's the URI trailer that they weren't able to use, and we're repurposing it for Acushnet mobile testing. And I'm sure once there's a vaccine, it could be used for vaccines. It's something that we could use for EMA purposes or flu clinics going forward. But it's a really helpful tool that we're going to have now. It's still in the works of being purchased, but we should have it soon. And I know it'll make a big difference for the fire and EMS staff who have been testing like crazy, and you know, there for every Acushnet resident if needed. They've been providing free testing. I wish I could remember the number off the top of my head right now, but I want to say the chief had over 1,000 of just the nasal swab tests in October.
Yeah, that's the number he said.
Yeah, so.
And I have to ask the question, do we have a vehicle to tow this trailer, or are we gonna need to buy one?
No, we have many vehicles we can use for it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for the discussion on that, Julie and Melissa, on the CARES and the FEMA grants. Next on the agenda, we have some minutes to approve from 2 meetings, one on June 3rd and one on July 15th. Both of those were remote meetings. On the June 3rd meeting, in attendance at that meeting was Robert St. Jean, myself, Michael Boucher, Sue Delgado, Robert Ferreira, John Howcroft, and Ron Melbourne.
Make a big motion to approve.
I second that.
Mike Boucher is a yes.
Paul Ferrari, yes.
John Howcroft, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, motion approved without opposition. The July 15th meeting, in attendance, Robert St. Jean, myself, Michael Boucher, Sue Delgado, Robert Ferrera, John Howcroft, and Ron Melbourne.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Mike Boucher is a yes.
Paul Ferrari, yes.
Ron Melbourne, yes.
Sue Delgado, yes.
Bob St. Jean, yes.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Motion passes without opposition. Next on the agenda, anybody have any old business to discuss? Anybody have any new business? Well, I guess on the new business side, we do have a new finance committee member. She's been with us in the past, Gail Rodricks. So welcome back.
Thank you.
You'll be a good addition to the committee.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have fun.
Yeah, it used to be fun, I remember. Thank you.
Okay. So Mr. St. Jean, I believe we will not be meeting again until we have the actual special town meeting. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes, unless there's other, business that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
At that point, I'm sure we'll hear from Julia or Selectman.
Yeah, and just to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, the special town meeting is on Saturday, November 14th.
Yep, Saturday, November 14th at 10 a.m. at the schools, where we usually have it. We'll have masks as mandatory again. It'll be very similar to the June meeting. Masks, socially distant, sanitizer everywhere. The COVID.
Yeah.
The COVID town meeting.
Yeah. So someday we're all going to meet in person again.
I know.
That's crazy.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Hopefully. Dr. Boucher, are you going to be able to handle that meeting?
Of course. No problem.
Okay.
All right. You got it, Bob. Anything. I'll help you out any way I can.
Thank you very much.
You got it. So if there's no other matters to discuss, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, meeting is adjourned. See everybody in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody.